Does this indeed shut down the idea that Lula will be part of the presidential race definitively?
Yeah, no, he is still in the race in some ways, but this does make it a lot more difficult because the judges were unanimous both on upholding the conviction and on the prison term that he has been sentenced to. So this limits the legal options that he has now to appeal this this appeals court verdict.
Julia, I was under the impression that people really never thought he had much of a chance in the first place to have his conviction overturned. Yet the market reaction would suggest otherwise. A huge surge today in Brazilian assets, suggesting that investors did think there was a non-zero chance that he could be back in the race.
We had been hearing some divergent views on, the market hasn't really priced in anything. We have heard from some people that it could be that the prison term got extended. It could be that they signaled that he could actually go to jail much sooner than anyone expected. So there's a few things at play because this is obviously a very complicated case and Brazilian justice has a lot of ins and outs. So it's hard to really price in what is happening. But Lula, we need to remember, Lula has over 30% in voting polls at this point.
Talk a little bit about who his base of support is, because obviously he's already been convicted of corruption. He was already sentenced to 9.5 years in prison before these three judges decided to extend that sentence to more than 12 years. Who supports him still, and why do they support him?
So Lula, there's a few things. Under Lula, life was much better for a lot of people. The economy was booming, and everything was kind of working out. He had really a golden 8 years. Commodities were helping, and Brazil really took off, as we heard a few times. So there's that, and he is also extremely charismatic and extremely popular. He speaks very well, so he speaks to his base very well. So he has strongholds in the Northeast and in parts of São Paulo, where he started his political career.
I was struck by a quote in our story leading up to this verdict today by a professor of international relations who said this is truly a lose-lose situation for all parties. If Lula is ruled ineligible, it could look like a target political vendetta, but if he's allowed to run, it will look like impunity. What does this verdict, as it's turned out, if it is lose-lose, say about sort of the bigger state of politics and government in Brazil?
There is that as well, right? There is this perception in Brazil at this point, after 4 years of the car wash probe, that every politician has some sort of corruption in their history. So what a lot of people and a lot of Lula supporters say is that they're just after him to get him because he is the hero of the people and he is speaking for those who don't have a voice. So now, without Lula, it opens up the way for more a centrist candidate, which is what the market has been hoping for, but hasn't really shown up well in polls at this point, the pre-candidates we have. And it depends really if Lula can run and in the end has to back a candidate because the court says, in September that he can't run in the October election. So it's still quite unclear what the election is going to look like at this point.